This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks everyone for joining today. We'll be talking about this ebook about domain authority called Why Did My Domain Authority Go Down? And Other Top Domain Authority Questions Answered. Domain authority is one of those important metrics that marketers try to track and analyze, but it is a really complex concept. So we put together this ebook. It answers 27 different questions about domain authority, and it goes into very fine detail. It's a very comprehensive resource that can help you understand what domain authority is in the first place, how it's calculated, and how you can use it to improve your marketing efforts. Like I said, domain authority is a very complex concept, and it's really hard to understand what it is without first talking about the internet as a whole. There are more web pages out there than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy, which is to say that it is an insane amount of information that is available to people at any second of the day. When someone has a question or they need to look something up online, they almost always have to use a search engine because there is just an enormous amount of web pages. No one can possibly navigate them all and find the answers they're looking for on their own. So Google and other search engines play an important role in helping people navigate the internet and bringing them to the web pages that they will find helpful. It's not possible to accurately and indisputably predict how a certain page will rank in SERPs for a particular query. But domain authority is a good metric to track to help you kind of gauge how well you could possibly rank for a certain query. So with that in mind, let's talk about what domain authority really is. First off, it's important to know that domain authority has nothing to do with search algorithms. It has nothing to do with Google or Bing or any other search engine out there. Domain authority is a metric entirely devised by Moz. It is Moz's way of trying to predict how well a certain website will rank in SERPs, with 0 being you're probably not going to rank very well, and 100 being you're doing really excellently. There's a lot of factors that Moz takes into account when calculating domain authority. And of course, since it's a proprietary algorithm, we don't know all of them. But some of the biggest and most important factors are linking root domains and the total number of inbound links, which are two separate things. A single website could link to your site 17 times, and that's one linking domain, but 17 different links. And finally, they take into account a spam score, or a measurement of how spammy the sites that link back to you are. You've probably heard the phrase, you are the company that you keep. Well, a similar situation with web marketing. Google will analyze how authoritative the sites are that link back to you and recommend that people check out your site to analyze how authoritative you yourself are. Like many algorithms in online marketing, domain authority does change. Moz makes updates to it a few times a year, and they released a pretty big update in March of 2019 called Domain Authority 2.0. Basically, they were just trying to make it more accurate. They made their domain authority calculator better at detecting link manipulation and were able to analyze more links. All in all, it was a way to make domain authority as accurate as possible. The reason why we should care about domain authority is not because it's a ranking factor. because like I said, it's not. It has nothing to do with Google at all. It's important to track domain authority because it is a good way to predict how well you could possibly rank. So if you have a high domain authority, that means you are more likely to rank well for relevant key terms than if you have a low one. Of course, it's not the only measurement of this general idea of trustworthiness or authoritativeness out there. There are a lot of tools that have similar, or a lot of sites that have similar tools, like SEMrush, which has the authority score, and Ahrefs, which has a domain rating, and Majestic SEO has the trust flow and citation flow. Although there are multiple options for analyzing this domain authority and similar concepts, Moz's domain authority algorithm is generally regarded as the most comprehensive and the most accurate, although there is no hard evidence of any such super accurate tool. The way that domain authority gets measured and the way that you should use domain authority in your measurements is it's really important to understand that it's a relative metric. There are some sites that have domain authorities that are very high, but those are largely going to be those very big sites like Amazon or Facebook or Microsoft.com. Like these very large sites will have a domain authority near 100, and every new website begins with a domain authority score of 1. So it's not a good idea to start saying we need a domain authority of 80 or 90 or something like that. The most important thing is to check out how other sites, how your search competitors are doing in terms of domain authority, and use that to gauge how well you're doing compared to them. And you can check that in a number of ways. The easiest one is using the Mozbar Chrome extension. You can see I have that right here. It'll show you PageRank and domain authority and things like that. It's free to install on your browser, and you can use that to look at your own website or anyone else's. When you're talking about domain authority, you are inevitably going to be talking about links and backlinking. Now, why is that? Like I said, some of the most important factors that go into determining domain authority is your total collection of backlinks, the total number of referring domains, and how trustworthy those websites are. These are all calculated in Moz's domain authority score because that is a major factor that Google and Bing and other search engines look at when determining how credible a site is. They're looking to see if other trustworthy sites regard you as a trustworthy site, or if it's really spammy, or websites that are heavy in malware, or websites that are clearly only in existence for the sake of link building purposes. These like shadier sites, if those are the ones linking to you, that's a red flag for search engines, and therefore that's a way that could bring down someone's domain authority score. Now, backlinks largely fall into two categories. There are follow links and no follow links. A no follow link has this little piece of code that is on the back end of the website, and it basically tells Google, when you're crawling this page, don't count this link. Don't take this into consideration. You'll usually find no follow links in comment sections in a blog, or when someone shares an article on social media, or if your site is linked to from a Wikipedia page. None of those will really benefit your domain authority And that's because none of those will really benefit the way that Google assesses how trustworthy you are. That's not to say that these are negative links, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but what really only contributes to your domain authority are the follow links, the ones that tell Google, count this one. This is the one that you want to pay attention to. And you'll get those anytime someone links to your site from their content on their site. Now, like I said, no follow links are not necessarily bad. If someone shares your post on social media, that's a no follow link that will bring you more traffic. The same thing if you are a source on a Wikipedia page, or if someone recommends that someone read your article from the comment section in the blog, that will all increase your traffic and bring more attention to your content and will send those positive behavioral signals to Google. But those will not directly increase your domain authority. Of course, there are also links that are not so good, that you don't particularly want in your backlink portfolio. And those are any follow links that come from spammy sites. Those can negatively influence domain authority, and likewise, they can negatively influence your performance in search. One important factor to note is that internal linking really doesn't increase your domain authority. It is a good idea to have internal links throughout your site to help Google understand how all of your pages are connected, how they relate to one another, and it can help with page authority, which is somewhat similar to domain authority, but ultimately not very related to it. Search engine optimization and domain authority are related, but they don't really, I guess they impact one another in some ways, but there isn't a direct tie between strong SEO and domain authority. Domain authority is not intended to be a measurement of the success of your SEO strategy. That said, when you have a sound SEO strategy, chances are you can increase your domain authority. And the reason for that is content that earns backlinks. Like I said, a strong backlink portfolio is really important for having a high domain authority, but you're not going to have that if you have nothing that people want to link to. Every time you post a well-researched blog post, or a really nice video, or an informative infographic, or anything that's worthy of a backlink, you are increasing your chances of, getting people to link back to your content, which will, of course, directly improve domain authority. Domain authority is also an important thing to keep in mind when you are doing keyword research. When you are targeting specific keywords, it's important to take a number of factors into consideration, like how relevant it is to your organization and how many monthly searches it gets on average. Difficulty score is a big part of it. You want to target keywords that you have a chance for ranking for, and your difficulty score will tell you that. Like domain authority, difficulty score should be thought of as kind of a relative thing. There is no set difficulty score that all brands should target. In general, you should compare a difficulty score of a keyword to your domain authority score. And we generally aim to choose keywords that are within 10 points of our domain authority score. So with all of that background information about what domain authority is, what it means, how it's generated, let's talk about the question at the top of the ebook: why did my domain authority go down? or up, which would be better. Well, there are a number of ways that domain authority can change. The first one, and the easiest to understand, is maybe Moz made an update. If your domain authority fluctuates, I would say the first place you should go is to the What's New section on Moz and see if they're talking about an algorithm change and what it is. But if that's not it, it could also be because other websites' domain authority has changed. Remember, domain authority is a relative metric. There is a scale of 0 to 100, and that scale will never change. So when websites that are on the upper end of that scale fluctuate, it affects everyone else underneath them, particularly the ones at the lower end of that scale. While those are two options for why a person's domain authority might change, I think the most likely scenario is that that website's backlink portfolio has changed, whether it was as a result of a backlink portfolio building effort, or it just happened to change for better or for worse. A change in your backlink portfolio can absolutely have a big impact on your domain authority. If your domain authority increases for the better, it's a good idea to go back through and identify what might have prompted the change, which are the new referring domains that are linking back to your site, find out what you did right so you can double down on those efforts. On the other hand, if your domain authority went down, it is even more important to look at what happened, identify which domains are linking back to you and which links those are, and figure out what is going on. If there are toxic links that are bringing people to your site, Google support can help you with that, and there are directions on Google's support page that can help you disavow those backlinks. Here we are. It's also a generally good idea to look through your website and make sure there aren't any 404 errors or any other erroneous situations going on that could give people a bad user experience, that are bringing people from a trustworthy site to your site but a broken link on your site. Fixing those types of issues can have a positive impact on your domain authority. All in all, domain authority is first and foremost a measurement of how well you could potentially rank in search for relevant key terms, but it's also in a way a measurement of your backlink portfolio. The stronger your backlink portfolio is, the higher your domain authority should be, and it should always be going up. There are more often instances of people adding links to your site than taking them off of their site. And so in time, with a good backlink building strategy, your domain authority should continue to increase. Thanks for your time. Does anyone have any questions?